Folks, we want to bring you up to date on the second day of the confirmation hearings of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Judge Jackson, as we speak, is in the middle of a hearing. We just had, I want to show you a little bit because we're going to have a conversation with USA Today columnist and law professor, Professor Najiri Mathis Rutledge, to give us some insight about what she's seeing so far in this confirmation hearing, as she was able to attend the hearing yesterday, and also just in general, looking at this whole scenario of bringing Judge Jackson to the Supreme Court and how both Republicans and Democrats have responded. But I want to just jump in, and I just want you to hear a little bit of what is being said and what's being discussed at today's confirmation hearing for Judge Jackson. Take a look.
There's really nothing unusual or special about it from your perspective.
That is correct.
For those of us up here, there was a lot special and important about it. It was a highly charged partisan and political issue, but you looked at the statute, you found persuasive precedent, you applied it, you went on to the next case. Well, let me ask about another decision. In a case addressing another very politically charged issue, and specifically this involves the emails of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, the Republican National Committee, or the RNC, is opposing your nomination, publicly accusing you of being a partisan Democrat. And they argue you could not possibly be an impartial justice. But ironically, back in 2016, you presided over a case brought by the RNC against USAID related to then presidential candidate Clinton, and you ruled in favor of the RNC. Both the substance and the timing of the case are really quite striking.
I did.
The RNC made Freedom of Information Act requests for certain emails involving the former secretary. And despite what the RNC would have us now believe, in this case, you reinforced your deserved reputation for following the law, not a partisan agenda, because you ordered USA
and folks,
Secretary Clinton.
We wanted to bring you just a little bit of the excerpt. And this is happening right now, folks. This is live from the confirmation hearing of Judge Jackson. And as you can imagine, the level of scrutiny of each and every decision that Judge Jackson has made is being discussed and reviewed thoroughly to ensure that she is serious about constitutional law, to see where her allegiance lies. All of those things are being determined. I want to bring in law professor, Professor Najiri Mathis Rutledge. She's a columnist for USA Today, and she wrote this piece, which I think was fascinating, which is why we invited her to be a part of this conversation. She wrote this piece called "It's Exhausting to Be a Black Woman," just asked Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. And she started this off, and I love the way she started it off. She said, "I am exhausted. I am exhausted. I am not exhausted because I am doing too much or working too hard. I am exhausted because the constant double standard placed on me and other talented black women is an exhausting burden." Let's bring Professor Rutledge to the conversation at this time. Professor, I'm exhausted too. First and foremost, how are you? I'm exhausted too.
I am exhausted. This is the second day of hearings for me. I was fortunate enough to secure a ticket. And yes, I'm very tired, but my heart is full because it's such an important time in our life.
You mentioned quite a number of things in your piece, and I'm gonna just raise just a little bit, and then we're gonna bring some other dynamic sisters in it, because I can't have this conversation. I could be the only guy, but I needed to have this conversation with some dynamic women. But you raised a couple of things. One being her qualifications. And this is something that I mentioned yesterday because I did not know this until you brought it up. You said Judge Jackson authored more than 550 opinions during her tenure as a district court judge and was reversed only 11 times, which is a 2% reversal rate. That impressive statistic has not stopped conservatives from falsely claiming she was reversed at a high rate. For those who don't understand that piece of data, that statistic, 550 opinions, 2% reversal rate. You're a law professor. Break that down for us like we fifth grade. What does that actually mean?
It means that she is a very respected jurist, because the district court level is the trial court level. And many times when a ruling is made, the losing party is upset and decides to appeal to a higher court. And that would be the DC Circuit Court, where Judge Jackson is currently a judge. At the DC Circuit Court, she was rarely reversed. I think there was only one other judge. So she would be one of the least likely people to be reversed on appeal. And so that just goes to her breadth of understanding about the rule of law and her commitment to the Constitution.
So that means that when she ruled on something, pretty much people trusted her judgment enough. And I'm saying from both sides said, you know what, that was a fair ruling. Like, okay, we can accept that.
Yes. So when the appellate court rules, they're guided by principles of standard of review. And sometimes they have to be deferential to the trial court. Sometimes they get to start over from scratch. And in the vast majority of cases, they found she was right on the money.
Vast majority of cases, she was right on the money. So you said a couple of things, and I want to bring my culture crew members, Iman, Heath, Lise Winnie, into this part of the conversation, because throughout your op-ed here, Professor, you bring it up the fact that, look, it's like Black women, you reach a goal, then the goalpost is moved. You reach another goal, you work harder, the goalpost is moved. You even put in your personal experience of how a white student, now here you are teaching about law, and you said that a white student approached you and asked you the question, well, what qualifies you to teach us?
Oh, it was even worse. She asked me in the middle of class. She raised her hand in class and asked me that question.
Wow. May I know what you said, Professor? May I know what you said? What was your response?
Well, I didn't say what I wanted to say.
I'm sure you didn't.
It's an interesting dynamic when you're a professor, because you're in a position of power. And sometimes when you dress down a student too harshly, it backfires on you. So you have to be very careful. So even though she may have deserved to be dressed down, if I had done that, then there would have been other students who have rallied to her and said I was being too mean and too harsh. So I decided the easiest way is just to let them know what my qualifications are. I'm proud of my qualifications. I didn't have a problem with it. But I did note that was a bold question to ask, and I'm quite sure she's never asked that. And I'm pretty sure none of my colleagues have ever been questioned that way before either.
Yeah. So when Tucker Carlson did that, when he said, well, we need to look at Judge Jackson's LSAT scores, and I shared with them like the day or a couple of days after that, we went through it right here on the show, and I was like, the LSAT scores, out of all test scores to be an attorney, you look at the LSAT scores, really? Like, dude, you don't even have a law certificate, let alone a law degree. Right. But when he did that, that opened up this idea that Black women essentially aren't qualified.
Absolutely. I believe when Mr. Carlson made that statement, he wasn't just taking a swing at Ms. Jackson, he was taking a swing at all Black women. Because I think for some people, we will never be good enough. Now, as a law professor who served on admissions, of course, the LSAT is just a timed logic test exam to see how you will perform in law school. Right. So one of the reasons it's so ludicrous is that we already know how she performed in law school. She graduated with honors, made it on the law review. And so, but I think what was most outrageous, he never curved his lips to ask this of Justice Barrett. And I'm not aware of any justice that they've asked something so outlandish. And the truth is, Judge Jackson is brilliant. I have no doubt she did great on the LSAT. But even if she had submitted that, there would always be something else. Just like President Obama and the birth certificate, it's never enough.
I want to bring Lisa. I want to get your take on this. When we're looking at Black women not being good enough, and you're talking about the highest court in the United States, I mean, she's breaking. If she were to be confirmed, she would be breaking all types of glass ceilings, and as my culture can remember, yes, I say black ceilings as well. So what's your take on how things are moving forward for Day2, and more importantly, where you stand on black women not being good enough?
I'm appalled, to be quite frank with you. When you look at the way Lindsey Graham, he asked her about religion, like it doesn't make any sense about how they're going about this. The Republicans are going about this. When you look at how Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed so quickly, and her qualifications compared to Miss Brown Jackson. And this is, again, when you look at black people, especially black women, not only is she black, she's also a woman. So she's constantly has to prove that she's competent before it is assumed, where a white man can walk in any room and it is assumed that he is competent until proven otherwise. And this is so frustrating as a black woman, to constantly have this uphill battle to be able to have to prove that you can do the same thing. And this is unfortunate that she is I would say almost to the point of being overly qualified. When you look at her record, she's went to Harvard. She's a double Harvard grad, if I'm not mistaken. And she is when you look at everything that she's accomplished, and then the hypocrisy of Lindsey Graham, who, when she was nominated to the U.S. District Court, he was okay. And then now it's like a complete reversal. And you can see that this is only about race.
Well, first and foremost, you can expect reversal from Lindsey Flip-Flop or Graham. I mean, he flips. I'm serious. You look at his record, he flips from flops more than a pair of shoes. So, I'm not even tripping about that. But I think, to your point, you're absolutely right. And Professor, you said that in your piece, that she is, let me make sure I'm looking at it correctly. You mentioned the point that she actually has better credentials than 4 other justices that currently sit on the Supreme Court right now.
Combined. More so than Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Thomas, Justice, I think the other one was Kavanaugh and Barrett. More judicial, maybe it wasn't Kavanaugh. I don't remember the 4th one, but more judicial experience than they have combined. She's been a judge for almost a decade. That is such valuable experience. So not only does she have the traditional credentials that we would expect from a Supreme Court justice of the double Ivy degree, the law review, the public service, the big law firm, but she's also been a public defender. She's also been vice chair of the Sentencing Commission. She's also received bipartisan support from the Senate on 3 different confirmation hearings. So this is a fantastic, phenomenal candidate. I think the problem is, because I sat in the hearings for 2 days now, we're seeing a lot of political grandstanding. We're seeing a lot of theater. We're seeing a preview of what the midterms are going to look like. And it's really unfortunate because they're not getting a chance to really know who Judge Jackson is.
See, and that's the other part about this, Professor, and then Iman, I want to get your take on this. The big part about this is, do you think that this confirmation hearing will be able to get past the symbolism of what Judge Jackson represents? Do you think they will get past this? The obvious, she's black and she's a woman. You think that they will get past to get to the meat for the American people to make their own assessment of her qualifications, her experience, and what she could possibly do on the bench? I feel like we were, before the show started, I saw a little bit of the back and forth that Judge Jackson had with Ted Cruz. And he was talking about her comments from critical race theory from 2015. And it was like, bruh, you talking about something, trying to make a comment. And she said it. She said, you didn't give me the full context of the quote. So you take a little piece to try to fit your agenda because everybody's talking about critical race theory, and then you go trying to set her up to seem like she's so biased and so partisan. But she said, I was saying that in terms of legislation and not anything else. So I'm wondering, can we get past that? Do you think that the Senate will be able to get past the symbolism to get to the substance? Professor, you can't hear you? Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know
No
that was
problem.
for me.
No problem.
I thought
Yes,
that was
ma'am.
for one of the other.
Oh, no problem. Yes, ma'am. We're going to get to you,
I
Iman. I
don't-
want to get your take on it first.
I think it's like a ping pong match, honestly. I think that we have Republicans with their agenda and their false narrative that they're trying to create of Judge Jackson, and then Democrats get up and they try to combat that false narrative. But in terms of actually getting to know who Judge Jackson is, I hope that the American people are smart enough to think for themselves, to read her opinions, to read her judicial questionnaire. All of it is available online. So instead of having other people think for you and listening to these sound bites about she's soft on crime and she defends terrorists, take the time to read the decisions. I can tell you from knowing Judge Jackson personally that she is a woman of high integrity. She is brilliant. She is kind. She is down to earth. And she takes her oath to protect the Constitution and the rule of law very, very seriously.
Iman, what's your take? You on mute?
I'm always on mute. The biggest concern I would say that I think is what won't get us to break those glass ceilings again is wanting to keep women and Black women in that box. Number one, she's darker skinned, she has locks, and she's a woman. That is one hell of an image that a lot of Americans, especially in our government, do not want to see. I hope this gets the ball rolling as far as making the changes of different faces and different people to be able to get to those heights of such a prestige position. And I didn't know she was a public defender before. Why wouldn't we want somebody who has been at those local levels, who have been with the people, rather than someone like you said, she's already overqualified. So why not have her? Why not her? Because of her exact image. It's way too much to give these little Black children the hopes and idea that it can get as where she has gotten. Because again, it's because of her image. I sincerely believe if she looked different, we all know it wouldn't be no day 2 of no confirmation hearings. It wouldn't be day 2. But this is the push we need. This is the start that we need. This is a good beginning.
I want to raise another quote that you put in your op-ed, Professor. And Keen, if you throw that, I guess quote 2 up on the screen, it would make more sense for some to claim that they disagree with her judicial philosophy. This is what you said, Professor. It would make more sense for some to claim that they disagree with her judicial philosophy. Sadly, that would not be as satisfying as trying to attack the character and intelligence of a Black woman who is also a sitting federal judge and has received congressional approval on 3 separate occasions. I have to say, I am in total agreement with you, Professor, but that's too much like right in modern day 2022 America, right? That we look at a person beyond their skin, beyond gender, to see the quality, to see the eligibility, to see their work, right? To see their thinking. But that is too much like right, Professor. That I don't think that's going to happen. Now, I think she's going to get confirmed because I think her record is strong enough, but there's still going to be some quote unquote some of created clouds of doubt and suspicion by lawmakers to make her seem like her judicial philosophy is just not on point or is not in tune with the American people.
Absolutely. I remember being in the hearings at the end of Senator Blackburn from Tennessee, her offensive comments, where she literally asked whether or not Judge Jackson had an agenda, a hidden agenda.
Wow.
And so it's very troubling and offensive to paint a federal judge in this light. When we're talking about the legitimacy of the Supreme Court and the legitimacy of the court system, when you have a judge who not only has been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, not only has been confirmed by the Senate on 3 separate occasions, but is a current judge, they deserve some modicum of respect that they are actually invested in the Constitution. Yeah. And so the smear campaign to try to somehow merge her with pedophiles and child abusers and soft on crime is really, really offensive.
It is offensive, and I'm wondering at this point, I mean, we're in day 2. This is a 4-day confirmation hearing. Can the American people do? What can the American people do, or what can Black America do, or what can women do? What can be done on our side of things to see that this goes through properly, successfully, and most importantly, to show that the American people are in support of this big historic move?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, if you're people of faith, I would tell you, first of all, to cover her in prayer. This is very hard to keep a poker face, and I'm so proud of her. There were times when I've heard senators question her, and I was just furious. And she has handled it all with grace and eloquence. Second of all, call your senators. We want a fair and expeditious hearing. And so far, the smear campaign is not my definition of fairness. This is not a time to play politics or pay back for what happened with Kavanaugh or Borg or anybody else. This is about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. And besides that, there are wonderful grassroots organizations, Win with Black Women, She Will Rise, Sister SCOTUS, the collective of Black women who are organizing at this very moment to make sure that we hold people accountable. If you're a writer, write op-eds. When you see something wrong or offensive, you make sure you speak up and don't just let it go as business as usual. We have to protect and defend when they're on the wrong. Now, if Judge Jackson was doing something inappropriate, that'd be different. But I know her and I know her character. And so she deserves our full support.
And my final question would be that if all goes well, she is confirmed, how do we make sure that she stays accountable? We had a conversation yesterday saying that, yes, we know time and time again, we get Black faces into high places and then they forget in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying that that's the way she is. I'm just looking at past history. How do we make sure that when those big decisions come down, that she's going to rule in the best interest of Black America just as much as she ruled in the interest of America?
That's not her job to rule in the interest of anything but the Constitution and the rule of law, first of all.
Gotcha.
Second of all, the best way to shorthand Judge Jackson, if you've ever watched A Different World, there have been a few people who have tried to compare me to Whitley. She is Kimberly Reese. She is loyal. She knows who she is. She embraces her culture. She is a good friend. She is kind. She is all those people. We are not getting another Justice Clarence Thomas. We are getting Ketanji Brown Jackson, who knows who she is, who's proud of who she is, who has referenced Constable Baker Motley, who has referenced the ancestors, even today, and the shoulders that she is standing on. So I have no doubt that she's going to make us very, very proud.
I'm all for it. Professor, you know we're going to have to bring you back at some point because I know this situation.
Tell her that Ketanji, she can call me. I'll be her anger translator. Like Obama had one. I got her.
Professor Najeri Mathis Rutledge, she's a law professor, columnist for USA Today. Professor, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this conversation. And you are absolutely right. She is more than qualified. She is enough. And we're going to continue to show our love and support for our sisters. So thank you, Professor, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch